robots roam the streets. Humans can split their consciousness in two, working and enjoying life. An unprecedented event is about to unfold. Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy and Eleven from Stranger Things, along with a lineup of A-list actors and the Russo brothers, directors of Avengers, Endgame, and The Winter Soldier, create an incredibly extravagant cast. In short, this is a mega blockbuster with the best of everything you can imagine, a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. With this group of cinematic giants, even a mundane story becomes a must-see. Enough with the preamble, let's dive into the main plot. The story is set in the 1990s. To promote the opening of its theme park, the Walt Disney Company mass-produces robots, which soon become a crucial part of the global workforce. They specialize in jobs that humans are unwilling to do, working tirelessly day and night without complaint. However, this doesn't last long. The robots quickly tire of the tasks assigned to them by humans and demand control over their own destinies. They even initiate a human rights movement. Tens of thousands of robots gather in St. Louis to listen to an impassioned speech by Mr. Peanut, a former promotional robot for peanuts. We were built to think, but now they want to deprive us of that. This resonates with the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. Soon after, the robots form the Equality Alliance and hold violent demonstrations in city. The White House officially declares war on the robot population. Any American citizen harboring a robot will face charges of treason. But robots don't need sleep or rest. Despite 2 years of desperate fighting, humans suffer one defeat after another. That is, until a man named Ethan Skeet steps in. For the sake of easy recall, let's just call him Baldy. Baldy is the CEO of Xander Industries. He develops a technology called the neural projector, which allows human consciousness to link with drone bodies. Humans finally gain the ability to fight mechanized enemies with mechanized firepower. Within a few weeks, the war comes to an end. The victorious representative, Baldy, and President Clinton sign a surrender treaty on the White House lawn. Ted, who currently takes care of Michelle, the defeated robot army, totaling 6,000, is imprisoned in Xander's exclusion zone, a vast desert facility spanning 250,000 square kilometers. After the war, the civilian version of the neural projector is officially released. It enables your brain to be in 2 places at once, allowing you to work and enjoy life simultaneously. By 1994, this device is almost ubiquitous. No matter how terrible your real life is, you can use the projector to escape. And our protagonist, Michelle, is perhaps the only person who dislikes the projector. An orphan, she has been shuffled from one foster home to another for years. Ted, who currently takes care of Michelle, only does so for the government subsidies. No one knows that Michelle once had a relatively happy family a few years ago. Although her parents were always arguing, she and her younger brother, Chris, were inseparable. Chris was a genius. Problems that took Einstein 3 days to solve, he could crack in a few hours. He was admitted to university at a young age. The siblings were very close and were loyal fans of the cartoon Oddity Squad, a story about robots and humans becoming good partners. Unfortunately, due to the nationwide anti-robot fervor, the show was cancelled long ago. Michelle had thought this peaceful life would continue, but a sudden car accident took the lives of her entire family. Her current foster father, Ted, is a middle-aged man who wastes his days in a daze. He lives off the meager allowance he receives for taking in Michelle and only knows how to escape reality with his neural projector. This device has become so widespread that even classrooms require students to wear them. But Michelle has always resisted. Knowing her family's situation, her teacher tries to persuade her to undergo neural projector therapy, hoping it might alleviate some of her pain. Give yourself a few hours to temporarily forget everything. However, Michelle refuses to be numbed by illusions. She wants to live in the real world. That night, Michelle wakes up from a nightmare about the car accident and hears strange noises outside. She goes to investigate and finds a robot. Her foster father, Ted, is sleeping like a log, with the phone buried under his obese body. Terrified, Michelle can't wake him up and has no choice but to hide under the bed in her bedroom. The robot walks in and searches the room, soon finding her under the bed. Michelle takes a closer look and realizes it's the robot from Oddity Squad. Holding a screwdriver, she questions the robot's purpose. However, Oddity Squad is a low-level robot that can only repeat a few pre-programmed lines with a very limited vocabulary. He picks up a photo on the table, points at Chris, and then at himself, as if to suggest that he is Chris. Michelle finds this absurd and tries to snatch the photo frame back. As they struggle, they knock over a cabinet, and the loud crash wakes Ted up. Michelle quickly moves the cabinet and releases Oddity Squad. Unfortunately, Ted witnesses this scene and flies into a rage. Do you have any idea that harboring a decommissioned robot is treason? Get that thing out of here! With that, he shoves Michelle. Seeing this, Oddity Squad makes a gesture from the cartoon, a secret code the siblings used, meaning, I will always protect you. Immediately afterward, Oddity Squad pushes Ted away. Ted gets up and runs to the living room, grabbing a golf club for self-defense. But he is no match for Oddity Squad. Enraged, Ted immediately grabs the phone to call the police. But the next second, Michelle stuns him with a taser. The gesture was too familiar. Michelle is now 80% certain that this robot is her brother. Taking the keys they found on Ted, the two get into the car. Michelle steps on the gas and leaves him behind, driving all the way to the Hallborg War Highway rest area. Michelle calms down and tries to have a proper conversation with Oddity Squad. Although communication is difficult, they still have the universal language of gestures. Michelle gathers that Oddity Squad is just a vessel for her brother Chris's consciousness, and his real body is somewhere else, in desperate need of his sister's help. But how can Michelle find him? Chris points to Xander on a road sign, but with Xander Corporation branches all over the world, it's impossible to know which one he means. Michelle asks, is there anyone else who knows where you are? Chris makes a gesture of someone wearing glasses, and then pulls out a can of pepper from the car. Doctor. Physician. He means the doctor with glasses. Michelle immediately recalls that the day after the car accident, it was a doctor with glasses who came to tell her about her family's death. Since Chris says he isn't dead, that doctor must have been lying. Michelle unfolds a map and asks Chris to point out the doctor's location. Unexpectedly, he points to the middle of the exclusion zone, a place ordinary people can't enter. Suddenly, Michelle remembers something and opens the trunk of Ted's car. Inside is a second-hand New Eden package sent from the exclusion zone. The address reads, Box 1616, Clayton, New Mexico. This means that the person with this mailbox knows how to get in and out of the exclusion zone. Without delay, Michelle sets off with Chris. After a long and arduous journey, they finally arrive in Clayton. Michelle notices that Chris treats people who use neuroprojectors with a pity that others don't understand. Just then, a truck approaches. The two hide in the shadows and watch as a man with his own background music gets out of the truck. However, at this moment, he is not Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy, but a small-time vendor selling second-hand goods. A group of drones approaches him for a transaction. They are buying antique guns, which can only be found in the exclusion zone. These old items are much more expensive than regular guns. Unexpectedly, the buyer turns on Kits after getting the goods and tries to kill him. But before he can act, a surge of electricity bursts from the truck, paralyzing the drone. Then, a round robot named Herman jumps out and helps Kits load the stunned machine and his motorcycle into the truck. However, the two don't realize that Michelle and Chris have sneaked into the truck. After arriving at the cargo hold, Kits and Herman start unloading. Man, either I'm getting older or these crates are getting heavier. He has no idea that there are two living people hiding in the crates. Kits is about to open the refrigerator for food when he discovers that the cooling system is malfunctioning. He pulls out a barely edible burrito, ready to risk salmonella poisoning to heat it up. Then, he finds that the power cord has been unplugged. I bet my toes it was Herman who unplugged the cord to charge himself. Just tell me you took it, and I won't get mad. Fortunately, he has a simple warehouse here. I took the cord. Just as the two are arguing, Michelle and Chris climb out of the crates. Unexpectedly, the Bass toy nearby has sensors, and the two are caught red-handed by Herman. Michelle explains that she needs to go to the exclusion zone, so she hitched a ride. Now, let's go our separate ways and leave each other alone. Kits warns Michelle that the exclusion zone is not a tourist destination. If you go there, you'll only find death. At this moment, a sound comes from the elevator. Kits quickly tells the two robots to hide and instructs Michelle to pretend to be his mute sister. Don't say a word later. The visitor is Butcher from the anti-robot task force. After Ted reported the incident, he tracked them down to decommission the robots. Kits is about to use the mute sister excuse to fool the task force. You can speak. At this moment, Herman quietly circles behind Butcher, ready to attack. Noticing Kits's shifty eyes, Butcher immediately grabs him and holds him in front. He fires several shots at the robots, turning the warehouse into chaos. Michelle grabs a fire extinguisher and knocks away Butcher's gun, but Butcher crushes the extinguisher with his bare hands. In a desperate moment, Michelle claps her hands to turn off the voice-activated lights. The entire warehouse is plunged into darkness. She uses the darkness to shoot at Butcher several times, but Butcher's mechanical shell has extremely high defense. Butcher grabs Kits's wrist and twists the gun barrel. That's a $20,000 revolver. Kits's heart is bleeding. Just as Butcher is about to strangle him, Michelle rushes out to stop him. Butcher says he won't hurt humans and is only following orders to retrieve the robots. Taking advantage of Butcher's distraction, Herman turns on a switch. A huge mechanical arm drops down, pinning Butcher underneath. The group quickly jumps into a cargo truck. Unexpectedly, Butcher kicks out a large bunch of keys, and no one knows which one will start the truck. Herman and Michelle are speechless. Fortunately, Kits finds the right key, starts the truck, and cheers loudly. His joy lasts less than 3 seconds before Butcher blows them over with a single shot. In this critical moment, Herman runs out and knocks away Butcher's gun. Cliff also rushes forward to help. The two drag Butcher to the side of the road, and Kits drives a work vehicle to ram into him. The entire warehouse shakes violently. They quickly escape into the exclusion zone, but the only exit is blocked by rubble. While they are wondering what to do, a strange cry comes from nearby. He pulls everyone to hide in the shadows. A scavenger robot appears, tearing apart a broken robot with its bare hands. Kits explains that these scavengers survive by installing parts from other robots onto themselves. Now that the exclusion zone is surrounded by high walls, Kits doesn't know how to get out. Fortunately, he has a simple warehouse here with components from the anime mobile suit Gundam, a construction-type robot with body suitable for various jobs. Seeing that Kits intends to leave her behind, Michelle quickly says, "I'm here to find a doctor with glasses. Since he can get in, he must know how to get out. Look, I have a plan, and you have transportation. Why don't we cooperate and benefit each other?" Kits finally relents. He has Herman carry the broken-down bus and take everyone along. On the way, Michelle is curious about why Kits is involved with robots. The scene shifts to Baldy's side. He is in a fantasy constructed by the neural projector, talking to his long-dead mother, indulging in this illusory warmth. Suddenly, the system malfunctions, and the data transmission rate plummets. Baldy calls in to researchers to ask about the problem. One researcher says angrily, "Chris is gone." It turns out that the operation of Xander's entire neural data network relies on Chris's genius brain. Although the boy's physical body is still locked in their laboratory, Chris's consciousness has escaped from the unencrypted nodes of the data matrix. The researcher points out that this loophole was intentionally left when the algorithm was first established. If the data rate of the neural projector continues to decline, the Xander system will completely collapse within the week, and everything Baldy owns will vanish. He immediately contacts Butcher online and declares that Oddity Squad robot you're pursuing is the property of Xander. I want you to return him. Butcher asks, why doesn't Xander come in person? You have plenty of resources and means. Baldy explains, because the peace treaty stipulates that humans are not allowed to enter the exclusion zone at will. Butcher is already capturing robots and doesn't care who he hands the prisoners over to, so he agrees to Baldy's request. His drone force is then activated. On the other side, Michelle and the others find an abandoned commercial area that doesn't seem to have been looted by scavengers yet. It has supplies, shelter, and easily defensible lines, making it a decent hiding place. The gluttonous Kits also sees a food court and wonders if there's any edible food inside. He rattles off the dishes he wants. As soon as he finishes speaking, he notices a robot in front of them, throwing a huge refrigerator at them. Herman quickly carries the bus to escape, but he is hit by a cabinet, and his leg joints are stuck. Herman falls in a concubine pose, and the bus is thrown out. This strange magic robot presses down on them and approaches the commercial area. Herman's giant mecha is also dragged away by a tow truck. When the group arrives at the entrance, the magic robot insists on showing everyone a magic trick. He chants a long string of spells, trying to open the door with magic. Unfortunately, his slow-witted assistant makes him look even more like a clown. Michelle and Kits enter the mall, utterly confused. It is inhabited by kinds of robots, including a piano-playing robot named Tackbee and a bootleg Hello Kitty peeking out the window. The magician leads them to a yellow car and introduces the leader of the robot community, Mr. Peanut, the one who signed the treaty with the president. He first apologizes for his subordinate's behavior of throwing the refrigerator, explaining that the mall needs to be vigilant against scavengers. Then, he introduces the community called Blue Sky Farm, a safe haven in this ruthless desert and the birthplace of a new mechanized civilization. Here, robots can transcend the work, tasks assigned to them by humans, and find their true selves. But now, Michelle and Kits, two humans, have intruded, violating the original merger treaty. This will provide Xander with evidence to attack the community. Although the boy's physical body is still locked in their laboratory, Chris's consciousness has escaped from the unencrypted nodes of the data matrix. Therefore, Mr. Peanut will escort the two out of the desert. Michelle quickly explains her brother's situation and asks if Mr. Peanut has seen a doctor with glasses. Chris said that person lives on a nearby mesa. Mr. Peanut admits there used to be a Dr. Clark here, but I kicked him out long ago because we robots have finally found some peace. Mr. Peanut doesn't allow any hidden dangers that threaten the community, and in his opinion, all humans are the same, selfish and foolish, not worth saving at all. Upon hearing this, Michelle says, "We don't need your escort. I'll leave now. Since you think all humans are terrible, how are you any different from those humans who think robots don't deserve respect and can be treated however they want?" Kits has no interest in these political propositions and just wants to fill his stomach at the food court. Herman interrupts him, saying, "Are you going to let a little girl wander around the exclusion zone alone at night?" Kits has no choice but to stop Michelle and explain that it's too dangerous to travel outside the exclusion zone after dark. Herman also grabs Chris and warns him, "If your sister dies, there will be no hope." These words finally calm Michelle down, and she decides to set off in the morning. Alone in the center of the square, he misses the time when he and Chris watched Oddity Squad in front of the TV. But now, Michelle feels very lonely. Sensing his sister's sadness, the robot Chris opens the player on his chest and plays Oddity Squad. The fantastical stories of robots and human partners adventuring on various planets are fascinating. The residents of the community also come out to watch the cartoon. Mr. Peanut is lost in thought as he watches this scene. Late at night, a robot from the postal service appears. She secretly hands Chris a postcard, saying it was left by Dr. Clark. The postcard contains a simple message. "Chris, if you see this, come find me. 2201 Dingfeng Road Rice Noodles." Michelle asks the postal robot how to get to this place, but he hesitates and refuses to tell her. At this moment, Mr. Peanut appears. He doesn't blame the postal robot. "Although the peace treaty states that humans cannot stay, it doesn't mean I can't help them leave." Mr. Peanut is willing to take Michelle to find Dr. Clark. But to defend against scavenger attacks, he suggests that Michelle take headball. Early the next morning, everyone sets off in Mr. Peanut's car. Little do they know that Butcher is following them not far behind. Mr. Peanut's car drives until dark before arriving at the address on the postcard. Unexpectedly, it turns out to be an amusement park, and it doesn't look like anyone lives there. The postal robot says, "I know 160 million locations on the American continent and would never make a mistake." Michelle climbs to a high place and sees a haunted house with lights on in the distance. Just as the group is about to go over and take a look, several scavengers suddenly emerge from the shadows. The scavengers seem to be very afraid of high temperatures and retreat, covering their heads. The ground beneath Michelle and the others suddenly collapses, forming a slide that sends them underground. This is Dr. Clark's laboratory. He looks at everyone warily, holding a gun. Michelle recognizes him at once. He is the doctor with glasses. She rushes up and demands to know where Chris's real body is. Herman also stretches out his hand, asking Dr. Clark to tell the truth. Dr. Clark has no choice but to confess that Chris is in Seattle Island Park. After your family's car accident, Xander, which scanned Chris's brain, sent us an alert. That boy has a special brain that can help us end the war. Upon hearing this, Michelle is furious. What exactly did you do to Chris? Knowing that it's hard to explain in a short time, Dr. Clark activates the robot he modified. This robot knows everything I know. According to the content of this video, Chris was in a coma after the car accident. The doctors thought his condition was permanent and simply donated Chris's brain to Xander Corporation as an organ. At that time, Baldy needed almost impossible computing power to run the entire network, and Chris's brain was the breakthrough technology they needed. Dr. Clark argues, if we hadn't connected Chris's brain to the projector, he would have died in that hospital. If you were me, would you have chosen to pull the plug? Unexpectedly, a miracle happened 13 months later. Chris actually regained consciousness. Dr. Clark immediately went to Baldy, demanding that he disconnect Chris. But to maintain Xander's operation, Baldy wanted to kill Dr. Clark. Unable to rescue Chris, Dr. Clark could only establish a tiny connection before escaping to help Chris's consciousness escape control. He had heard of the Blue Sky farm built by Mr. Peanut, so he implanted the location into Chris's brain, thinking that if the boy could ever escape control, he would have a place to stay. However, the whole thing is too cruel for Michelle, who knows nothing about it. Kits can't stand it anymore and punches Dr. Clark. The postal robot exclaims that the anti-robot task force's Butcher has caught up. Mr. Peanut tells the others to leave first, and he will stay to deal with Butcher. Speaking of which, the two are old acquaintances. They fought during the war. Mr. Peanut is no match for Butcher, and his gentleman's hat is pulled off. Butcher declares mercilessly, "You have violated the peace treaty. Those tin cans in the mall will also receive their due punishment." At this time, Blue Sky Farm has been surrounded by drone forces. He knows that the task force has clear regulations. They cannot harm humans. Butcher indeed won't hurt humans, but Baldy's drone behind him shoots Dr. Clark directly. In the blink of an eye, the drone squad surrounds Michelle and drags Chris away. Butcher kills the drone, dragging Michelle and advises her to go home. This is not a place for you. The next morning, the group returns to Blue Sky Farm and finds it in ruins. The magic robot has died a heroic death, and Mr. Peanut's efforts have been in vain. And Chris has been sent back to the laboratory. Seeing the boy sleeping in the hibernation pod, Butcher realizes he has been deceived. But Baldy shows no remorse, saying that Chris gave humans a chance to leave all pain behind. My mother was an alcoholic. Whether sober or drunk, she was a terrible mother. But in the neural network, she can become a gentle and considerate elder. Baldy believes that this invention has brought peace to everyone on Earth, and there will inevitably be sacrifices when promoting the progress of a species. Baldy instructs the researchers to reload Chris's consciousness into the network system. This time, be sure to lock the door. Michelle doesn't know how to save her brother. Fortunately, Kits is willing to help her. Dr. Clark said that the computer robot knows everything he knows, so the computer must have the password to leave the exclusion zone and know how to enter the island park. However, it's difficult for just a few of them to rescue Chris. Michelle hopes that the robots will act with her. Since Xander's network needs Chris's brain to run, removing him will crash the entire system and the drones will become scrap metal. As long as everyone works together to rescue Chris, Xander will no longer be able to threaten the robot community. Michelle convinces Mr. Peanut and the other robots also want to contribute. This time, robots and humans will fight together. They march to Seattle in a mighty force and soon arrive at the Xander Park building. Herman puts on the largest battle armor and throws a car over. Chris's real body is sleeping in the hibernation pod. To contact him, Michelle has to wear the neural projector and enter Chris's brain. To save her brother, Michelle wears the device for the first time. The scene in front of her is constantly reconstructed and it turns out to be the house they used to live in. Chris is sitting on the sofa and is very surprised to see his sister. Michelle wants to take her brother away quickly, but Chris says, "My physical body has a symbiotic relationship with Xander. Without me, Xander will die. And if I leave Xander, I will also die." Chris hopes his sister can turn off the life support system. He should have died after the car accident. Staying alive now will only cause more people to get lost. Michelle is shocked. How can she bear to kill her brother with her own hands? The battle outside has reached a fever pitch. Human weapons are no match for such advanced technology. In this critical moment, Butcher walks up to Mr. Peanut. But this time, he chooses to lay down his butcher knife and tells Mr. Peanut that Baldy's real body is in the weapon development department on the 4th floor. Butcher helps Mr. Peanut because he thinks Baldy is even more cold-blooded than the robots. He takes off the projector, chooses to log out, and will never use the system again. At this moment, Baldy's mecha is still attacking frantically. Herman's second layer of armor is also penetrated. Just as Baldy is about to attack Kits, Butcher rushes forward to protect him. The next second, Baldy learns that someone has invaded the building and quickly takes off his helmet. Unexpectedly, he turns around and sees Mr. Peanut. The latter wants to talk about the treaty again. Herman, unaware that the drones have been deactivated, is still waving his fists desperately. Seeing this, Kits goes over to pull him away and finds that Herman's chest has been pierced. The robot says weakly, "I may be entering power-saving mode." Then, he loses all response. The robot war falls into a stalemate again. The computer urges Michelle to make a decision as soon as possible. Chris also tells his sister, "No matter what, I will be by your side." Michelle takes off the helmet and decides to turn off her brother's life support system. She holds Oddity Squad's mechanical hand, gently touches Chris's heart, and says her final goodbye. Just as Michelle is about to close her eyes and wait for death, all the drones suddenly become paralyzed. Seeing this, Mr. Peanut realizes they have won. Kits is grieving because Herman can't share the joy with him when Herman suddenly pops out of his helmet. It turns out he has another form the size of a wrist. Kits is overjoyed and takes Herman to find Michelle, only to find her slumped next to her brother's body. With the collapse of the Xander system, the entire city is paralyzed. Baldy's evil deeds are also exposed to the public, and he will spend the rest of his life in prison. Michelle becomes a national hero. She returns to the exclusion zone and records a video, hoping to reunite humans and robots and make everyone understand that Xander's actions were not only detrimental to robots, but also harmful to humans. Too many people are addicted to the virtual world, forgetting about real life and the most genuine connections between people. This video spreads to every corner of the world, awakening the decadent masses. And in a waste recycling station, Oddity Squad suddenly crawls out of the ruins. The film ends here. The story is adapted from the picture book of the same name. Netflix invested $300 million in this film and invited a group of top-tier celebrities to star in it. Fortunately, the wild imagination saves the film's watchability. The robot design is also very interesting. The design of Postal Robot is reminiscent of Joy in Blade Runner